true memoir of the hockey mask killer. Milton Pratt tells all. He's here tonight. The best job I ever had was wearing a hockey mask and scaring kids with a chainsaw. Haunted house gigs are the best, and I'll probably never have another boss who tells me to act crazier and encourages me to stop showering before work and wear the most blood-stained clothing you can find. I'm kind of a legend in the spook house community. It's a thing. Seriously, I have 2 Leatherface awards because there is no one better than me at lunging at people's groins with a chainsaw. None of the little pukes could tell there was no blade on it. When they see the shape of a blade, hear that rumbling motor run, and smell the gasoline exhaust, they know it's real. When it got near their crotch, as I chased them down dark hallways, they lose their minds, especially the guys. Teenage boys can imagine nothing worse than getting their fun factory mangled. Or a hole, or a new hole created in their backside. Run! Now the girls, they would just go ballistic no matter what I did. My favorite was slicing the chainsaw toward their ankles. You might be surprised about how many of them tried to climb up onto their boyfriend's body at that moment. They would wrap their legs around him like a frightened baby orangutan. Making people scream in terror is a skill few people master, and I know that I will be remembered as a true scream artist. Seriously, look me up. My name is Milton Pratt, but most people think of me as the character I was born to play. Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th movies and the books. Don't forget the books. I've seen all of them. I've read everything about Jason ever written, even the fan fiction. Jason versus Godzilla was my favorite. Nothing can kill Jason. Nothing. Not even a 300-foot tall lizard. Not even Godzilla. Godzilla cannot take Jason. Ever since Hockey Mask Jason appeared in Friday the 13th Part 3 back in 1982, I dreamed of being a hero like him. He was everything a man should be. Big, scary, invincible. And he had a great theme song. You remember that creepy music? Kick, 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 ma, 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 ma. Kick, 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 ma, 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 ma. It's my all-time favorite. It gave me hope, and I needed it. I was a big, goofy kid with an ugly face and bug eyes that everyone said were about to pop out of my skull. I could barely talk because of a deformed and paralyzed tongue. All the kids teased me. They even threw rocks and hit me with sticks. I hardly beat any of them up. My specialty was breaking bedroom windows of those little punks with a baseball bat at 2 a.m. Then I would leer at them and stand still as a tombstone, wearing my very first hockey mask and carrying a machete. Kick, 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 ma, 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 ma. I couldn't really say anything scary, but I could do that, which is short for kill, kill, kill them. Mommy, mommy, mommy. Jason's mom was ruthless too. Anyway, the mask scared the crap out of those kids who picked on me. It was the real deal, bone white with little holes over the mouth and forehead. I ordered it from Canada and everything. I outgrew my first one. The mask that got me for my haunted house job was the best one I ever had. It came all shiny and clean, a real Detroit Red Wings goalie mask like Jason wore. I made it look just like the one in the movies. I scuffed it up. I got it dirty. I even chopped a hole in the left cheek with a meat cleaver. Getting a meat cleaver was really not easy. You'll understand why later. Now, I'm not bitter about it. And the whole no meat cleaver policy was good at my place of residence. See, I worked for the Haunted Castle. It was the most popular haunted house in a 5-state radius. Mostly teenagers and college students swarmed the place every year, forming huge lines that wrapped around the block. The castle was over 100 years old. And it wasn't just a historical landmark turned into an attraction for a few days in October. It was actually the Utah State Mental Hospital, where real psychiatric patients were kept in lockdown units. I am not kidding, people. People don't believe me now, but the mental patients and the hospital staff, they ran that haunted castle for 26 years. We made over $100,000 a year to keep that hospital running. Until the worst day of my life, back in 1998. It really happened. Google it, people. Everybody wants you to believe that the political correctness police shut the whole operation down because it was offensive to the mental illness community. That's just a cover story disguised in a little truth. And there's nothing else they can do for me now. I will not be silenced. The man I kept quiet for all those years passed away. And those bastards can sue me now if they want. You all need to know about Friday, October 30th, 1998, when a couple of teenagers disappeared inside the castle on Halloween night. I didn't know who they were at the time, but I found out later what perfect little rich brats they were. Jennifer Hatch and Brandon Young. I hate perfect little children. It's just not natural. Everyone needs a scar or a bulging eye. The haunted castle had been packed that night. Don't kill me, Milton. I'm reading good, I swear. Haunted Castle was packed that night. There was the last bunch of a co-ed group of BYU students. They were screaming and yowling in terror as they fled the building. They ran off out of the basement, except for Jennifer and Brandon, who had crept off into a side room for some privacy. All the staff went home. The inpatients working went back to their rooms in the minimum security ward. And I stayed with Eldon to shut everything down. Eldon was my boss and my warden. He looked like Wilford Brimley with that mustache and everything. Plus, he used to bring me elk jerky and sour candies on movie nights. He worked as an orderly in the long-term wing of the hospital. I thought of him as the father I wished I had. Since I was 21 and had my first big psychotic break, I had lived in the mental hospital. I don't want to get into all of it, but 84 was a tough year. My favorite TV show, Fantasy Island, got canceled. And I thought Jason had been killed permanently in Friday the 13th, Part 4, the final chapter. Major suckage. I should have known. Jason getting hit in the head with a machete 17 times was not enough to take him out. I wish I would have known they would make 8 more movies after that. 10! There are 10, people. Thank you, Hollywood. Thank you, Hollywood, for keeping the most important slasher film franchise of all time alive for almost 30 years. I I smile every time I think of those promiscuous camp counselors getting what they deserved. A sharp blade through the skull. A pitchfork in the chest. Such lovely memories. Oh, about teenagers getting what they deserved. Eldon and I heard the two trespassers walking on the metal stairs down to the second floor. As we began our final rounds, they were giggling and whispering. "You hear 'em?" Eldon said. The mask muffled everything that came out of my mouth. "I'll take the back stairs. You go around through the autopsy room and catch 'em. You scare 'em toward me." I raised my rubber machete covered in fake blood. "Milton, don't scare 'em too bad." I raised my hand. "Scouts horror." I couldn't say honor. I marched down the stairs, letting my size 16 steel-toed boots echo in the stairwell. I wanted them to hear me coming. I picked up a few things before I went down to the second floor where I heard them. The castle had 3 levels, and the tour started on top and went down through a maze of scary chambers. My favorites were the torture room, the zombie room, the ghost room, the medieval torture room, the morgue, and the scariest one of them all, the psych ward. Now the trick was to make eye contact and get the whole group looking at one silent actor. You just look at them just like that, and they come towards you, and then all of a sudden, a hidden actor comes out of nowhere. Works every time. It's money. Now I caught up to Brandon and Jennifer in a hallway we called Screech Alley. I stood there under a flickering light bulb. They froze. That's when I lifted the severed head. I threw the prop down the hallway. They shrieked and ran for the stairs. I stomped after them in the dark hallway, lit only by a few red light bulbs and a few pulsing strobes. That's when they almost fooled me. They went behind a curtain and found an employee-only door that took them into the basement. I ended up at the exit where Eldon was waiting. "What happened, Milton?" "Oh no!" Eldon found the employee-only door, and we found ourselves in a windowless basement from the original construction back in the 1890s. It was a dead end. The lights didn't work, and Eldon's flashlight ran out of batteries after we caught a glimpse of them. I definitely saw blonde hair. "Hey, you kids, come on out," Eldon said, then chuckled. "Or I send Jason in here after you." "Kick, kick, kick, kick." Milton said in the pitch blackness, just trying to be helpful. Someone squealed in terror. In hindsight, I probably should not have started up my chainsaw at that moment and revved the engine. We went in after him, and the next thing I knew, a bright light flashed in my face. One of those stupid disposable Kodak cameras blinded me. I heard a thump. Eldon gasped in pain. Another flash, and I saw Eldon get hit in the head. He crashed to the floor, blood pouring out of his scalp. I tried to help him, but a metal rod shattered my forearm. I dropped my chainsaw and got hit across the face with what I found out later was a piece of rebar. The hockey mask probably saved my teeth and a lot of extra pain. I remember getting hit a bunch of times on the ground, then kicked in the nuts 3 times. Brandon Young was an all-state baseball player who hit 46 home runs his junior year. The little punk had a full ride scholarship to BYU. Jennifer Hatch was a black belt in karate and taught her young women's group how to ruin a guy's day in 3 brutal moves. 3. They ran off while Eldon and I bled on the floor. Both of them got caught by the cops when they crashed their car on Center Street in Orem after they lost control while speeding. And they didn't get hurt, don't you worry. But poor Eldon had a bunch of broken bones and spent 3 weeks in the hospital. He had to take a medical retirement. We were both going to press assault charges, but the Hatch and Young families stepped in and offered hush money. They even threatened $1 million lawsuit against the hospital. After all, Brandon and Jennifer were scared for their lives, and the fight or flight response is a powerful force. Lawyers talked. Money changed hands. Eldon needed the cash, and I took the deal. The board of trustees decided I was too big a liability to have on premises anymore. They blamed me for the whole thing. Me and my stupid chainsaw. They shut the haunted castle down for good. Then they decided that I was sane. I got kicked out of the Utah State Mental Hospital. I lost my home. I lost the best job I ever had. Brandon and Jennifer got married and went to Hawaii for their honeymoon after they graduated from high school. I was waiting for them. When they got to Maui, they arrived late at night in their bungalow right off Wailea Beach. They sat on the bed kissing, and, well, I didn't wait for them to fully undress. I mean, I'm not a perv or anything. I drew aside the curtain to their outdoor patio. The metal rings scraped on the curtain rod like Freddy Krueger's fingernails on a chalkboard. They looked right at me with their perfect blue eyes as big as saucers. Their faces contorted in disbelief, then terror. Timing is everything. So I waited for the fear to sink down into their bones, for their brains to realize what they were seeing was real. And then I turned on the chainsaw I borrowed from the Polynesian gardener named Moki. They both wet themselves and ran out of that bungalow, letting out what we call in the biz legit blood-curdling screams. The cops didn't show up. So after a while, I went inside and took a strawberries and champagne-scented bubble bath with tea candles all around. I ate everything in the minibar. And that night, I watched TV in style. An old episode of Fantasy Island was on. The plane! The plane! Man, I love that show. I looked for Jennifer and Brandon, but they hopped a plane back to the mainland that night. Stalking them during their honeymoon would have been fun, but I passed the time by finding a beautiful beach to soak up the sun. No one ever hung out when I was around, except for Moki. He was bigger than me, not quite as ugly. He gave me a job, and I stayed in Hawaii permanently. I do security when famous people want to hang out on the beach. And in case you're wondering, a 300-pound guy with a hairy back, a Speedo, and a hockey mask, pruning the rosebush bushes with a chainsaw, keeps the paparazzi away. The creeps that got too close or annoy the guests on a visit, well, they get a visit from me in the middle of the night.